3, 2, 1.
Morning, Ingram.
You did it again. That's hilarious. Good morning, Clint.
How are
okay,
you?
wait, I got an intro. I got to do this intro. Okay, ready? Da-da-da-da-da. Hello, and welcome to another edition. I'm just teasing.
Good afternoon.
Well, everyone, I am here today with my dear friend Clint Ives. He is the incumbent county commissioner for Precinct 4, and he is agreed to come and sit down, give me a few minutes of his time. They are right in the middle of election. Early voting started on March the...
Early voting started February 20th.
February 20th, that's right.
Always runs for 2 weeks. So
2
it ran
weeks.
last week. It'll finish up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then we'll have the weekend and Monday and election day on Tuesday, March 6th.
Okay, does early voting, like, doesn't that just kind of like just make it just so much more intense? Like, because
You know, the early voting is a double-edged sword. It's growing. The turnout for early voting rises every election because you've got 10 full days that you can just stop in. Now, it's at one location. It's at the health department.
Right.
But it's for 10 full days that you can stop in and cast your vote.
Right.
Versus one day, who knows what's going on in your world. You may have a family member hospitalized. You may have to go out of town unexpectedly. So early voting really provides no excuse for the total lack of turnout that we still continue to see.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about that. I want to get to the story that you shared with me recently about some students about voting. But before that, I wanted to ask you, you know, when there are elections so for county commissioner, it's an electoral process every year?
4 years.
Every 4 years, okay.
So I run in the gubernatorial cycle, which is what the governor...
Yeah,
that's actually what it's called.
Yes,
gubernatorial.
Right. For the government, yeah. Government.
Myself, Judge Zeller, and Kevin Yannick, so precincts 4, 2, and the county judge run in the gubernatorial cycle.
Okay, gotcha.
Some call it a midterm, some call it off term, but it's off from the president. So you got gubernatorial cycle, then you got the presidential cycle. Precincts 1 and 3 run in the presidential cycle.
Why is that?
The state constitution allows for that so that there's no possibility of having a fresh green commissioner's court.
Oh, I see.
Local government's not easy to understand in the first year. It takes a while. The local government is night and day from the private sector. And so at no point can you will at all times have at least 2 members of commissioner's court that have 2 years of experience under them in the event of a complete turnover.
Well, okay, so one of the things that I had learned was, you know, figuring out what precinct that you live in, right? That's on the page for, that's on our Facebook page, the County of Victoria County Facebook page. Where I was going with that is like, do you know how they divide those lines or what the precincts?
Yeah, so you could almost look at a map, north, south, east, west, and draw a crosshair on it. And the northeast corner would be mine. The northwest corner would be Kevin's in precinct 2. 2, 4, 1, and 3. Yeah. That's a very rough estimate of the precincts because of redistricting. Every 10 years when a census is in place, we have to balance our precincts.
That's right.
So the lines get a little jagged at those borders.
Right.
One precinct may pick up a chunk of population just to keep that balance there. But a very rough, just put a crosshair on the county, north, south, east, west, and you'll have your 4 precincts.
Wow.
That's not 100%, but you'll get 80% there.
You know, we first met during Harvey. And one of the things that I just very much admired about you was we were in the thick of it, and I met you where the emergency center is. What is this called again? The
EOC, Emergency Operations Center.
The Emergency Operations Center. And it was like nobody had water. We didn't have running water. We were just all, you know, in the thick of it. And you came to work. I mean, you were there basically the whole entire time. And I remember you were like, sorry, I haven't taken a shower and brushed my teeth. But you were there to work. And I just thought, that's incredible. And had you expected when you ran your first term 4 years ago, did you ever like have any preparation for what a hurricane could possibly...
No, and that's the importance of the emergency management division that has really blossomed nationwide in the past 15 to 20 years. Emergency management eats, sleeps, and breathes these events.
Right.
And so leading up to an event, you never know when an event's going to happen. It's a force of nature. So leading up to something like that, the past 8 years, or I should say 7 years,
Right.
Rick McBrayer, our Director of Emergency Management, provides training. He encourages the elected officials, I've got to get you on board. I've got to get you prepped. I've got to run you through some policies. I've got to run you through some procedures and some mock exercises. And that prepares you for what could happen.
Right.
And so we've had a lot of that training. We've had a lot of meetings, a lot of collaborative efforts to familiarize the elected officials that when that event hits, you are in that chair making those decisions, but you've got a background to fall back on. The other side of that coin is Rick allows the group to work. Rick allows the collaborative effort to do what it's supposed to do because the procedures are written that way. They're written in a way that not one single person makes that decision.
Right.
It goes through kind of a democratic process. Right. The final major decisions are made by a policy committee. And that policy committee is the county judge, the mayor, the city manager, the county's director of administration, the fire chief, the sheriff, and the police chief. That's your policy committee. Right. So you've got the top leadership of both the city and the county making collaborative decisions on whether to evacuate.
Right.
That way you don't have one person who may or may not be capable of making that call at the time. But you've got a collaborative effort. The group agrees. The county judge signs the order. The mayor signs the order. The order is initiated.
Do you think that you're a better county commissioner for having gone through?
Yeah, I do. It's experience and watching those procedures play out, watching them work, and understanding the past 7 years of the training and it all falling into place. Right. What Victoria should be proud of, I'm certainly proud of, is that we went through a Category 4 hurricane and 0 loss of life. Yeah. Our first responders hit the ground running. As soon as the wind dropped below 50 miles per hour, that's the threshold, the first responders hit the ground running, and we had 0 loss of life. In comparison to storms that we've seen across the nation where that's not the case. Right. So it should highlight our sense of preparedness and our ability to initiate recovery procedures.
And work together. Yeah. You know, that was the one thing, just as a citizen that had never really, don't have much experience or education with city government. I've been working on it. This is why I've done Victoria Votes or worked in Victoria in Motion magazine and try to do like, civic leaders in motion, that kind of thing, is to educate myself, was how I just like a sense of pride with everything that was going on, going down into the basement and seeing so many people working together to ensure the safety, of our citizens was amazing. A
good example of our preparedness efforts was the debris management contract. Right. Now, the debris management is a fancy word for the guys that come in and clear brush. Right. All right. In the FEMA world, because in a disaster, the lingo and the procedures of FEMA take charge. Okay. So we've got to be well versed in FEMA's way of life. Right. And the debris management contract we put in place years ago. At the time of the disaster, all we got to do is activate that contract. Right. And we've got a prime contract. We're not a subcontractor. We're not third in line. We're not fourth in line. We've got a prime contract in place with a company that comes in with the equipment, and they're able to handle the collection of the debris and the cleaning of the right-of-ways and everything. All of the details been done. We just got to activate them. Right. And in 72 hours, we had those debris management contractors in Victoria County, and in a little over 90 days, Victoria County was debris-free. Right, that's pretty amazing. And we had over 150,000 yards of debris that was collected in Victoria County.
So kind of give me a little bit, let's talk about you. What does the county commissioner, what does the job county commissioner entail?
So the illustration that I've used for years is 2 hats. We've got a hard hat in the precinct on the construction side, and we've got a business hat in the courthouse. I'll start on the precinct. We are essentially the superintendent / owner of a construction company in the precinct, and our clients, our customers, are the taxpayers, and our jobs are the public roadways. Gotcha. So we have a budget in place. Mine generally flirts around $1.5 million. I've got a lot of overhead built into that budget because I've got staff, payroll, benefits, equipment, fuel, insurance, a lot of the normal nuts and bolts of overhead that a private sector construction company would deal with. We have that in place as well. At the end of the day, when all of that is taken out of the budget, I'm sitting on about $500,000 for construction projects on 168 miles of county roads. I've got $500,000, and we have to get very creative with that money. We stretch pennies. We partner with TxDOT. We hustle surplus material. We hustle surplus products. Anything that we can get at a discount, we're all over it. That is a conservative approach to giving the taxpayers the most we can for their tax money without increasing that burden. It would be a very simple option to say, well, let's just quadruple the road and bridge tax rate. Then you got plenty of money to do the projects you need. We're not even going to consider that until we've exhausted all options on what we currently have. And it's been productive. We have doubled, if not tripled, the amount of roads that we paved since the prior decade. So since I took office, we implemented a very aggressive paving program. And we went from paving 4 to 5 miles per year to paving 10 to 12, and sometimes, like last year, 14 miles per year. And you got to get creative to do that.
Right.
So that's the precinct, okay? Construction only, daily operations, staff, heavy equipment, always on the move, okay? Switching roles into the business side with the courthouse, that is, I am one of 5 administrators, if you want to view it that way. The county judge, Ben Zeller, is 100% courthouse. He's not in the field. He has nothing to do with the construction of the precincts. We as commissioners are 100% in charge of the construction operations in our precinct. The county judge is in the courthouse only. He's the chief budget officer for Victoria County, and he eats, sleeps, and breathes that general fund and the operations of our departments, because centralized from the courthouse, we have 29 departments. The health department, the sheriff's office, the juvenile detention center, maintenance, and the list goes on. So the county judge is centralized in the courthouse, and he is more intimate with the budget and the operations of the courthouse. But then you have 4 commissioners who also are involved in the courthouse duties, the administrative process of the courthouse. For example, I spent the entire afternoon yesterday at the health department with an engineer and another commissioner looking at subdivision rules that we have to put in place in order to be compliant with what's called MS4, which is a stormwater prevention program that's come down from the federal government that we have to implement. And it's an arduous task to get this implemented, and we've been working on it for 6 months. But that's an example of what happened yesterday afternoon in the life of a county commissioner. We were at the health department for a little over 3 hours working on finalizing this document.
So every day is a little different?
Every day is different. I can have right now, tomorrow, wide open on my calendar, and by 2 o'clock, it's chaos.
Right.
You know, you never know what the next day brings.
Okay, so with that being said, is that part of what you love about the job?
I love it. It is, you know, I was in heavy equipment and construction prior to taking office. So the construction of the precinct's in my blood, and I love that. I love the guys out there. I love the construction lifestyle. But I always say I can step into the political role that satisfies the 10% of flesh in me that's not saved. But because you can go back and forth. We have no direct supervisor. We have no boss. Our boss is the taxpayers. So I can balance my time accordingly.
Right.
If I'm tired of the courthouse or I need to step out of whatever's going on there, I can go spit snuff with the guys in the shop. I've got that back and forth luxury.
Right.
The county judge has a whole different role.
Right.
He's in that courthouse day in and day out. It's a complete different individual.
So what about the election process? What about campaigning? Like,
I love campaigns.
Do you really like to campaign?
Love it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I always think that there's the pain at the end of that campaign. So that's how I associate it. What do you love about campaigning?
Campaigning is convincing you, Ingrid Sparkman,
right.
that I am a good guy, I am the guy for the job, and the other guy is not.
Right.
All right. Now, I can't have this conversation with 16,000 registered voters in Precinct 4.
Right.
So you've got to do it from a political science standpoint.
Right.
And you do that through marketing. You do that through strategy. Campaigns are a lot about strategy.
Right.
It's not a popularity contest.
Right.
When you see campaigns that get hot on the campaign trail, and there's all this noise, and there's all this media buzz, and there's all this social media, this absolutely has nothing whatsoever to do with a campaign.
Right.
It's entertaining.
Right.
And a lot of times that noise and that social buzz is created intentionally.
Right.
Could be for distraction.
Right.
Could be simply out of sport. At the end of the day, your tactical mission of a campaign is to target those voters.
Right.
And you better know who those voters are, and you better know the ones that turn out.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about that, because that is the whole reason why I started on this path about Victoria Votes. Because I realized in learning, or just that preliminary self-education, that we've got, a wonderful city, a very active community, but I don't see that in the voting statistics.
So the 16,000 registered voters that I mentioned for my precinct, 16,000, that's a healthy number of registered voters, but it's still a long ways off from the actual population of Precinct 4.
Right.
So we struggle with the lack of registered voters, and we also struggle with those registered voters turning out to vote.
Right.
So on our best primary, we'll see 2,000 registered voters show up to vote in Precinct 4.
I just find that
2,200 showed up during the Trump
amazing.
Trump 16, but that was kind of an anomaly because Trump's Trump. Plus you had Ted Cruz in that primary, very popular conservative. So it was a hot primary, and that's where we saw our biggest spike, and that was around 2,200 for Precinct 4.
Right.
I'm curious whether those, and we had record-breaking voter registration in Victoria County. I am curious what our turnout's going to be in light of that 2016 spike. Are we going to drop back down to normal primary turnout, which is between 1,800 and 2,000 for Precinct 4? Or are we going to maintain that spike?
Right.
I hope we can maintain it, because there's not an elected official or candidate around that will not promote turnout. We got to have turnout.
Right.
Get the numbers up. Get the numbers up.
Now, you just gave a presentation, a speech to for some school children, right? And so, you were sharing a story with me that I thought was brilliant. So will you kind of go back? I mean, I hate to do that.
Yeah, no.
Will you retell that story?
Oh, absolutely. I was invited to give a presentation to a senior government class at one of our high schools, and
not children, young adults. I should have said young adults.
Young people, and it was an awesome group. They were all 17 to 18-year-olds.
Right. And
I had about 25 in there, and I had no idea what I was going to talk to them, because we're invited to speak to different audiences throughout the year, and a lot of times it's just blah blah blah. I'm Clint Ives. I wear 2 hats. Here's my hard hat. Here's my business hat. That old song and dance. All right. I've given that illustration I don't know how many times.
Right.
So I'm walking into these guys. I really had no idea what I was going to do, and so as 10 minutes before, I said, well, let's have a mock election. So fortunately there was a large whiteboard in the classroom, and I wrote March 6, 2018 on one end, and I wrote January 1, 2018 on the other end. And this was like sometime in mid-January, so the local campaigns really hadn't kicked off full gear.
Right.
But anyways, what I did was I asked them, I said, okay, we're going to walk through an election process for a primary, because we're in a primary. So I said, I want an issue that would divide this class. Tell me an issue that would resonate with you guys at your age, but would also divide the class. So we bounced around legalizing marijuana, we blah, 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 blah. And finally one of them said lowering the drinking age to 18. Classic argument. Classic debatable issue for that age group. I said, perfect. Because you got the argument of, I can enlist in the military, but I can't drink a beer. It's a good argument. So we had our issue. Okay, I wrote that on the chalk on the whiteboard, and I asked them. I said, okay, how many are for this? How many are for an 18-year-old drinking age? How many are not? And beautifully, it divided the classroom. And I had 2 or 3 that didn't care. So I had some fence straddlers. Okay,
real life.
Oh, it was a beautiful division.
Yeah.
Okay, so I asked each group, the pro group and the con group, to put a front person forward. So they did, and it was a male and female. So they pushed an 18-year-old up for the pro 18-year-old drinking age. The 21 group pushed a female, and I said, these are our candidates, and I got them engaged. And to make a long story short, we walked them through an election process.
Very cool.
Here's when you need to put your signs up. Here's our debates. Okay, I need you to give me some talking points. And so the 18 crowd gave me this was their platform. The 21 crowd, here's their platform, and we went through some debates. And then I said, okay, we're 1 week out. What do we do? Well, one group said we go start a fight with the other side just to distract them. But what was amazing was these things happen. Even when adults are running for office, maybe not on the local level, but you hear about like violence at rallies and this and that. And one kid said, I'm going to go down and I'm going to find who my voters are and I'm going to target those guys. I said, you will be elected one day, young man. You do not run in precinct 4. I have my eye on you. Because that scientific spin is where you're successful. All of this other noise, the fight and the debates and all that's that social buzz, that noise. Targeting those voters is where it's at. So I'm letting the cat out of the bag a little bit. So anyways, we get within 24 hours. I said, it's night of. What do we do? Okay, this and that. And I said, time out. Everybody stop. Drew a line on the chalkboard. I said, side conversation. We're taking a break from election day. I said, your instructor has offered 10 bonus points on your final exam if you will write a 2,000-word essay on local government. Now, 2,000 words is pretty stout. The guest column in the newspaper is 800. So you're talking about a lengthy essay. I said, you got to write a 2,000-word essay. There's no pass or fail. Just participate, and you get 10 bonus points on your final. Who does it? One kid raised his hand. He said, I'll do it. I'll spend 2 hours and do that for 10 points. Okay, so I wrote his name. His name was Jonathan. Wrote his name on top of the chalkboard, whiteboard. And I asked.
That's right. Chalkboard is my time.
I asked the group. I asked the group over here, the 18-year-old group. I said, "Why didn't you participate?" I had football practice. I was busy. I was doing other homework. I didn't need the 10 points. Okay, so I asked the other group. It's a lot of trouble. I asked the other group. I asked the other group over here, "How come you didn't participate?" Because I didn't blah, 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 blah. And so the excuses went on. So I'm writing these excuses down, and there was 8 to 10 of them. And it took some time, but I wrote them all out. I said, okay, that's over. We're back to election day. Blah, blah. And they really had no idea why we went there.
You didn't
the
make
teacher started to make that connection. So we go back to election day. Rah, 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 rah. I said, all right, polls are closed. It is 7 p.m. on March 6, 2018. Polls are closed. The dust has settled. The campaigns are over. Jonathan is the only one that turned out to vote. All of this noise and all of this buzz, all of the debates, the fight that you said that broke out, all of this racket that created over the past 90 days was all for naught, because out of you 25, Jonathan is the only one that turned out to vote. So I said, Jonathan, how do you say? How did you vote? He said, I want an 18-year-old drinking age. So I put a big check on 18-year-old drinking age. And I said, this is law now, because Jonathan showed up to vote, because the rest of you were too busy. I was doing other things. And I circled back to those excuses, and we went down the list. And it got deathly quiet. And it resonated with those guys how important that voting is. Because that is actually a real-life ratio almost, that 1 in 20 makes the decisions for leadership in our community, in our state, and on our national scene.
That's very, very impactful. Thank you for taking the time to
No, I had the best time. And I think the fact that I wasn't prepared allowed me to kind of lower my my sense of professionalism, because normally I just give them a boring speech on county government, but engaging them on their level, and because I didn't care what the topic was. If they wanted to vote on marijuana, we would have done it. I honestly
and truly wish that you could go around to our community and do this as a,
Yeah, it was great.
So, all right, so tell me a little bit. Now, I happen to know that you have an amazing sense of humor, an amazing storyteller. You do some comedy stuff on the side. So, but I wanted, let's give our audience, though, a little bit about just you as a human being. Like, what do you like to do for fun?
So I like spending time with my boys. I was very lucky to
got boys.
I was very lucky to be blessed with 3 boys.
You got boys.
No pink at our house. A lot of dirty underwear, a lot of ripped up jeans, no pink.
No pink.
A lot of times we just give up on underwear in general. Because whatever. But I've got a 5-year-old, I've got an 8-year-old, and I got a 9-year-old. And they are rowdy through and through boys.
Yeah.
And I love spending time with them. I've coached Little League from the time that my eldest was old enough for T-ball, and then I stayed with T-ball. I love T-ball. I love me some T-ball. My oldest son is now in minors, and we just got back in the swing of Little League last year. So I'm coaching my youngest on a coach pitch T-ball team, and then I got my oldest in minors, and then I got my middle son in ninja school. He's studying to be a ninja.
He's a ninja school.
He's taking karate in Edna. He's going to be a killer. And he watches, you know, it's funny. We got Netflix and all the streaming stuff at house. He will watch like 1950 and 1960 translated kung fu movies.
Oh my gosh, because those are the best.
Oh yeah. And exactly, when the lips keep moving and all that, and he's just mesmerized with them, and he's practicing their moves where, you know, the center guy fights off like 200 people.
Yeah,
that's his vision.
Well, you've got some pink. I mean, I will say this. One of the videos that you have either on your personal Facebook page is you encouraging your wife, who is a beast. But then I always feel like I need to clarify that quickly, that she runs in a very prestigious athletic circle for training for what is called the beast.
Obstacle course racing is kind of the sport. Now, there's different divisions of obstacle course racing. Spartan is kind of the leader in that genre. So she's been in Spartan. This is her 2nd year. In 6 months of her 1st year, she spiked to the World Finals, qualified for the World Finals, took 30th at the World Finals.
That's amazing.
Out of 185 females from 35 countries, she ended 30th, and she'd been in the sport 6 months. 2018 came around. She was invited to join a pro team. So she is on a pro team now.
That's amazing.
18 is going to be big for her. She's picked up some sponsorships. She's on track for true greatness as an athlete, which is I could not be more proud of her. I get behind her 100%. I encourage her. I push her.
Right. That is the video that I saw. Your wife is Jenny. And you were kind of following behind. I'm not saying behind, but you were.
People don't realize how difficult it is to be a spectator in that sport. I mean, you almost have to be trained just to spectate. There's no snacks along the way.
They don't.
No.
There's no like spectators.
Jenny's running a 17-mile obstacle course race in the mountains that has a 6,500 foot elevation change from start to finish. And I'm expected to spectate that?
That's hilarious. You're hilarious. But I just thought it was really incredible to see you guys working together as a team, because when I would imagine, it takes a lot of imagination to even begin to think about the kind of training and the preparation and the actual race that Jenny goes through. But I was also thinking, I just thought it was really cool that you stayed with her, and that mental stamina that you need, you know, from your trainer, from your companion, your husband, your significant other, along the way. And I thought that was incredible. And then my immediate other thought was, is she a better athlete than you?
Oh God. Okay, let me tell you. She can. All right, she is capable of kicking my butt, beating me down, picking my carcass up, running with me 12 miles and setting me down and kicking my butt again, then carrying me back home because I mouthed off. No, she is. No, is she a better athlete than? So
she's a beast.
Yeah, you know, the motivation, the role that I play in this, it involves some lying.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it does. At the World Finals, the World Finals touts itself. The World Finals for Spartan touts itself on being the most aggressive track ever in the world. And it is. It's got a 6,500-foot elevation change. You're up and down mountains.
Wow.
You're doing the normal obstacles and the distance that's in most of the races throughout the year, except you're at a ski resort in Lake Tahoe, and you're doing it up and down mountains.
Right.
And it also involves a 200-meter swim in 41-degree water.
Wow.
Which the swimming is not involved in the other races. Only the World Finals has swimming because they can capture the extreme cold temperatures of the swim at Lake Tahoe. So 7 miles up a mountain, 15 obstacles later, and there's a 200-meter swim in 41-degree water.
At the end, it's like
No,
a bonus.
no.
Oh, okay.
No, about a third of the way in. So once you get out of this 200-meter swim, you got to continue another 10 miles
Soaking
of
wet.
running. Yeah, wet.
Oh my gosh.
And it's 30 degrees. The ambient temperature is 30 degrees, and it's brutal. Well, Jenny feared that. She didn't like being cold, and she feared that water. And so I was able to ride a ski lift, fortunately, otherwise I would have never made it, up to the swim. And that was kind of a spectator point. And so I'm getting some good footage, and Jenny's coming in, but I'm also very early, so I got about an hour before she gets there.
Right.
And they're pulling people out left and right. They've got 2 divers in the water, and they've got two people in canoes monitoring the swimmers.
Wow.
And about 1 in 8 hypothermic shock setting
Oh
in, and those divers will pull them out and get them to safety, get them to shore.
Right.
Now here's how brutal Spartan is. Spartan's claim to fame is if you fail an obstacle, you do 30 burpees. That's your time penalty for failing an obstacle. Some of the other OCR stuff, you could just go around an obstacle if you don't want to do it. Right. Not in Spartan. You do 30 burpees as your penalty for failing an obstacle. If you fail the swim, it was 90 burpees at the World Finals. So they pull these runners that are coming out of hypothermic shock, get them to the bank and say, we'll give you a ride back if you want to quit. If you want to continue, you got to do 90 burpees.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's brutal.
Right.
It is brutal. So I'm watching this, and I'm like, Jesus, And so Jenny, and I've already seen like 20 people get pulled out. And so Jenny comes along, and she's knocking it, and so I'm videoing her, and I said, nobody's failing it, baby. Everybody's beating this. Nobody's been pulled out. You got this. So I'm playing mind games with her, because if she thinks nobody's failing it, then obviously she's not. So she bails in. She straps her life jacket on. She bails in, knocks her 200-meter swim out in a matter of minutes, hops out, and she's on the track. And I straight up lied to her, because they were pulling fools out of that cold water left and right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to
absolutely.
sit with me, and I really especially enjoy your candor and your comedy.
Love the show.
Thank you so much, Clint. I appreciate that. Thank you all so much for watching, and get out and vote. It's at the Public Health Center.
So today and tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. Of course,
Again,
when this
we're
goes
on
live.
Southbridge Street time, so we're talking.
Let's back up. Election day, March 6th. All polls will be open.
Yeah.
There's
March
35 polling locations in Victoria County.
That's right.
Maybe 34, but 35. Most of the elementary schools, volunteer fire departments. I don't have a list of them, but you can find them on the county's website. Yep. The thing about Victoria County, you can vote anywhere. You don't have to go to your home box. You don't have to go to where you traditionally voted. Years ago, we implemented countywide voting. You can vote anywhere.
But here's the deal. You got to vote.
Got to do it.
You got to do it.
Vote early. Vote early. Vote often. Vote Ives.
That was slick.
3 rules.
Thank you again.
You bet.
Thank you guys so much for watching.